The stars outside the viewport burned like 1,000 shattered diamonds, scattered across the velvet of space. I had always admired the sight, but tonight it felt oppressive. Maybe it was because I was stranded aboard the research vessel Artemis II, orbiting an uncharted exoplanet in the Zeta Orgi system. Maybe it was because I'd spent 3 weeks scanning for life and found nothing but silence. Or maybe it was because I hadn't been entirely honest with myself about what I wanted. I stood there, hands pressed against the cold glass, watching gas clouds twist in colors I had no names for. My communicator beeped, a weak signal from mission control, telling me I was behind schedule. Again, I sighed. I had always been cautious, slow to act, meticulous to a fault. And yet, tonight, caution had left me frozen. A sudden ripple of movement in the reflection made me start. I turned, and for the first time I saw her. She was standing behind me, impossibly tall, with skin that shimmered like the auroras I had admired from space. Her hair floated as though underwater, a cascade of silver that seemed to capture the light of 100 distant suns. Her eyes, well, words had never captured them, were vast, black pools with flecks of violet and gold that made me feel naked, exposed, and yet strangely safe. "You've been hesitating," she said, her voice melodic, but with an edge sharp enough to cut through steel. "Human, stop." I swallowed hard. I don't even know who you are." She smiled, a slow, predatory curl of lips that was both beautiful and terrifying. "Names are meaningless here," she said. "I am what comes when hesitation dies. I am the unknown you're too afraid to face." Before I could respond, she reached for my arm. Her touch was electric, sending a jolt through my body that made my knees weak. She didn't wait for me to decide. She dragged me forward, toward the airlock, toward a destiny I hadn't dared imagine. "Stop, wait." I started, but words were useless against the force of her resolve. The hatch slid open with a hiss, revealing a swirling vortex of light outside, a tear in space itself, fracturing the reality we knew. Stars bent in impossible angles, colors bleeding into one another, and through it all, I could see shapes moving, creatures beyond comprehension, worlds suspended like beads on a string. She glanced at me, and her eyes held no apology. "Do you want to know?" she asked, her hand tightening around mine. "Or will you cling to your hesitation and stay behind?" I didn't have a choice. My fear screamed to resist, but my curiosity, my humanity, propelled me forward. I let her pull me into the unknown. The sensation of falling, though there was no gravity, no floor beneath my feet, was both terrifying and exhilarating. Colors streaked past me. Time fractured into moments that existed simultaneously, and I felt myself stretch, compress, and stretch again. It was disorienting, yet intimate. The presence of her hand anchored me. When we landed, or rather, when emotion ceased, I found myself in a world that defied physics. The ground pulsed like living tissue, yet it held firm beneath my boots. The sky shimmered with 2 suns, one burning crimson, and the other an icy blue. Towering structures rose around us, spiraling organically as if grown rather than built. Creatures, some with 6 wings, others with crystalline bodies, moved without fear, acknowledging our presence as if we were expected. She released my hand and turned to me. "This is what hesitation costs," she said softly. "A life half lived, trapped in the confines of what you think is safe." Here, here, you're free. I wanted to ask how she knew all this, how she could predict my fear, my hesitation. But the words caught in my throat. Instead, I stepped forward, drawn by the rhythm of the world around me, the silent music that seemed to pulse in time with my own heartbeat. Days was it weeks, passed. Time had little meaning here. The alien, this being, this guide, showed me wonders beyond imagination. She taught me to see energy as language, to perceive the flow of life that threaded through planets and stars alike. She allowed me to touch the crystalline flora that sang when held, and to witness creatures folding space around themselves effortlessly. I learned more in what felt like a single moment than I had in decades of earthbound study. Yet, amidst all this beauty, I was aware of a shadow creeping inside me, the part of me that feared the unknown, that hesitated at every threshold. One evening, as our twin suns dipped below impossible horizons, painting the sky in molten gold and violet, I turned to her. Why me? I asked quietly. Why pull me into this place? Her eyes softened, though they still burned with intensity. Because you were ready. Not ready in the way you think. Not ready because you were brave or smart. You were ready because hesitation alone would not let you stay behind. I see those who cling to the familiar, and I leave them to it. You stepped. I swallowed, knowing she was right. Every choice I had made before this moment had led me to her. Hesitation had stalked me all my life, but here I had no choice but to leap. Then the world shifted again. The pulse beneath our feet quickened, and the air shimmered. The sky twisted. A voice, vast and resonant, spoke. Not from her, not from any visible source, but through every molecule of my being. Traveler, it said, you have entered the domain of the threshold. Only those who embrace the unknown may remain. Others are returned. I turned to her instinctively. What is this threshold? She looked at me, eyes glittering with something I couldn't name. The gateway to everything. And nothing. You've crossed the first test simply by coming with me. But there will be more. Are you prepared to go further? I nodded, though my chest ached with fear. I didn't know what further meant. I didn't know if I would survive. But the thought of returning to hesitation, to mediocrity, was unbearable. I had to go on. The threshold unfolded. We walked through corridors of light that reshaped themselves with every step. Shadows of other travelers flickered in and out, beings I could not categorize, some human, others not. They reached for me, whispered warnings or encouragement, and then vanished. My mind strained to grasp the scale of it all. Then we came to a chamber. Or perhaps it was a planet enclosed in itself. A singular entity dominated the space, a being of unimaginable magnitude. It was like staring into the heart of the galaxy, alive, sentient, aware of every particle around it. Do not fear, she whispered. It is neither friend nor foe. It is understanding itself. The entity turned its attention toward me, and I felt its gaze pierce through the layers of my mind, sifting memories, fears, regrets, and desires with clarity that left me exposed. I quivered, unable to look away. You have come far, human, it said, voice a symphony that resonated in my very bones. Few step into the unknown willingly. Even fewer endure the transformation. Will you let hesitation govern you one last time, or will you embrace what lies beyond? I swallowed. I remembered every choice I had made in my life to cling to safety, Every step I had refused to take, every moment I had let fear dictate action. And then I remembered her hand, pulling me through the vortex, the trust she had placed in me, the promise of discovery. No more hesitation. I said, my voice firm, even though it trembled, I choose to step forward. The entity's presence enveloped me, and for a moment I was weightless, boundaryless, no longer just human. Knowledge, sensation, understanding flooded into me like a river breaking through a dam. I saw the birth of stars, the death of civilizations, the interweaving of life across dimensions. I understood, without comprehension, without explanation, the infinite tapestry of existence. When it receded, I was back on the alien world, standing beside her. The twin sun shone again, unbroken, serene. I gasped, overwhelmed, and she smiled. You've seen it, she said. You've been changed. You are no longer just a human who hesitated. You are something more. I looked at her, and for the first time, I understood the magnitude of her actions. She had dragged me into the unknown, not for her, not for me, but for the potential I had never dared to realize. Where do we go now? I asked, still trembling. Anywhere, she replied. Everywhere. But first, you must learn to walk alone. I nodded, knowing she would not always be there to pull me forward. Hesitation had been my prison. Now, the universe was mine to explore. And for the first time in my life, I felt the exhilarating terror of choice unshackled by fear. I stepped forward, and the unknown welcomed me like an old friend.